Okay, this is a quick video response. It's a sort of off the cuff thing. I hadn't planned to do this today. I ended up watching some videos from a guy called Zwemmer100, who's making about 500 videos today on free will, and I didn't watch all of his daily output. The list seems to go on and on. Because there's no structure to what he's doing there. Not all of them. He's got something to say. He certainly knows a lot more about free will than he does about evolution. That's certainly the case. But there's no structure to it. I'm not getting involved in all those videos. But he clearly wants to sell something, and he wants us to buy it with regard to free will. And he's tarting himself around looking for an exchange with YouTubers way above my level there. You're not going to get that exchange, Zwemmer. If I put my cynical cap on, you won't get that exchange because you've not got enough subs, you've not got enough draw to your channel. But the other reason you're not going to get that exchange is fundamental, and that's because this question of free will is unlike any other question I've tackled in the time that I've been on YouTube. Every other question has involved somebody selling me something, or me selling something, and they're selling me it. And I can see what they're selling, and I can decide whether I want to buy into that philosophy or not, buy into that scientific argument or not. This question is entirely different because it's really not clear what it is that's even being sold. So I think the first thing that you've got to do, and I'm interested in what you know, I'm not interested in you quoting anybody else or saying, well, this is what Dan Dennett says, this is what somebody says. I don't give a shit about that. I want to know what it is that you're selling with free will. That's what I want to know. What it is that you're bringing to the party, that you're adding to the mix that we haven't already got. What I've already got is I'm a, what's the philosophical name for it? I'm a pessimistic incompatibilist, if I've remembered that correctly in the philosophical jargonese. I accept indeterminism, or at least I accept the possibility of indeterminism. I keep an open mind on it, but I don't see that it has any bearing on these ideas that we could think of as free will. Let's just stay on free will. Let's just add this. There are different ways that we can use the term free will. You know, if we talk about somebody's free will being took off them because a gun's been placed to their head, we're talking about a different kind of thing. That's not what we're talking about now. What we are talking about now, well, I don't really know, because that's the problem. I don't know what it is that you're selling me. But I've told you what I am, and what I believe is that when you make a decision, it's based on the information that's been presented to you, and it's been based on your brain state. Maybe you also think it's based on your soul state, but that's what I think. It's a decision that's based on something. Indeterminacy just adds baselessness. Now, if that's what you're selling me, random chance, pure fluke, total baselessness, then bring it on. Offer me that. I'll accept that. But that doesn't seem to make my will any freer. It just seems to make it more arbitrary. Let me give you an example. This is an example, just to cheer everybody up for this rather dry video. This is an example I gave to Dennis Pollis, this hypothetical example, and I was really interested to see what his response. This was some time ago, by the way, in comment section. His response was, I don't deal with hypotheticals. So there you go, a philosopher who doesn't deal in hypotheticals. I think the first one I've ever come across there. But let me give you the example then. I ask you to make a decision now, and you make a decision. Okay, so I've asked you to make that decision, you've made that decision, and me and everybody else who's watching this video, we're all going to get into my little time machine. We're going to go back to the point when I asked you the question, or just after I've asked you the question, and see what happens. Do you make the same decision again, in another retelling of time? And we're going to keep doing that, okay, and we do it loads of times, hundreds of times. It's really boring for us. It's not so bad for you. You don't realise that all this has been going on. And every time you make the same decision, that would seem to tell me that you only could make that decision, and that the decision that you'd made was based upon your brain state or your soul state, if that's what you prefer, and on the information that was presented to you. This is a decision based on those things. But what about if you didn't always make the same decision? What about if sometimes you arrived at a different decision? Well, what would the differences in the two decisions be based upon? They wouldn't be based upon the information that was presented to you, because that's the same. Wouldn't be based upon brain state or soul state, because that was the same. So whatever the difference in decision would be entirely baseless. There's nothing else for it to be based upon, is there? Or if there is, tell me what it is. But unless you can tell me what it is, then what is it that you're selling me? Are you simply selling me indeterminacy? Because if you are, I've got to tell you, that doesn't really butter many parsnips as far as I'm concerned, Zwemmer 100. If it isn't that, then what are we gaining from this? You know, I'm not one of these people who thinks you should believe something because it's a nice thing to believe. But I like to think that when I asked my wife to marry me and she said, yes, I'll marry you, I like to think that that was based on something. And if it was based on a brain state and the question that was asked and it was entirely deterministic, do you know what? I would rather have that than think that on another retelling, quite arbitrarily, she could have said, no, I don't think I'll bother, quite honestly. I don't like to think that my life has been that arbitrary. I'd actually rather it was fixed and deterministic than arbitrary. So what can you offer me other than determinism and arbitrariness? Determinism and indeterminism. What is it? What is the other thing? What is this third way that you can offer me? That's the question that you need to answer. Well, back to the proper videos in a couple of days' time, and a video looking at the idea of creation from nothing, creatio ex nihilo. Okay, right, that's it. Bye for now. Thanks for watching.